There are 13 motorcycle brands that nobody is buying anymore, and the reason is they are hemorrhaging customers at an unprecedented rate. This is not just a market slump, it is a full-scale brand crisis. While these companies are desperately trying to project an image of strength, their sales data reveals a catastrophic decline. You were told that a legendary badge was a symbol of quality and resale value. The truth is, for these 13 brands, that badge is now a warning sign. In this video, we will count down the 13 brands that have lost the trust of their riders. We will expose the fatal flaws that are driving their customers away for good. You need to watch until the end, because the final brand on this list is not just losing customers. It is in a state of terminal decline that it can no longer hide. Number 13. The custom chopper boom. The custom chopper boom has completely collapsed under the weight of its own excess. What was once the pinnacle of motorcycle culture has become a cautionary tale about how quickly consumer tastes can shift. American chopper and West Coast choppers once dominated television screens, creating a cultural phenomenon that sent custom builders into every corner of the country. Today, those same shops are closing their doors at an alarming rate. The custom chopper's demise is not difficult to understand when you look at market realities. The average buyer of these machines was typically older, with disposable income and garage space to spare. But as that demographic ages out of riding altogether, younger generations have shown virtually zero interest in picking up the torch. Millennials and Generation Z riders have systematically rejected the entire chopper aesthetic, viewing these bikes as impractical relics from a bygone era. Walk into any remaining custom shop today and you will find desperate owners slashing prices on bikes that would have commanded six figures 15 years ago. The resale market is even more catastrophic. Custom choppers are now depreciating faster than almost any other vehicle on the road, losing up to 70% of their value within 5 years. What was once sold as an investment opportunity has become a financial black hole. Practical limitations that enthusiasts once overlooked have become impossible to ignore. Terrible ergonomics, questionable reliability, and a complete lack of modern technology make these bikes increasingly irrelevant in today's motorcycle landscape. As riders gravitate toward machines that offer both style and substance, the custom chopper stands as a monument to excess that the market has decisively rejected. Number 12. Buell motorcycles. Buell motorcycles represents perhaps the most painful example of a brand in perpetual limbo, not quite dead, but hardly alive. It was founded by former Harley-Davidson engineer Eric Buell, and the company has been resurrected so many times that potential buyers have completely lost track of who even owns the brand at this point. After Harley-Davidson unceremoniously killed the brand in 2009, Buell has gone through a series of attempted revivals, each one less convincing than the last. The most recent incarnation, Buell Motorcycle Company, emerged in 2021 with grand promises of reinvention, but actual production and sales numbers tell a different story. Industry analysts estimate that fewer than 500 units have shipped in the past year, numbers so dismal they would not sustain even a boutique manufacturer. The brand's biggest challenge is its virtually non-existent dealer network. With fewer than 30 dealers nationwide, most potential customers live hundreds of miles from the nearest Buell showroom. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle. Low sales cannot support expanded dealerships, and limited dealer presence guarantees continued sales decline. Most motorcyclists will not even consider a brand they cannot test, ride, or get serviced locally. Buell's once innovative engineering approaches, from perimeter brakes to fuel-in-frame designs, now seem like solutions to problems nobody actually had. Meanwhile, the motorcycles lack the technological features riders expect in premium machines today: advanced rider aids, connectivity features, and sophisticated electronics. When you are asking premium prices for bikes with last-decade technology, customers will inevitably look elsewhere. The saddest part of Buell's decline is the brand's diminishing relevance in the very American motorcycle segment it helped pioneer. As brands like Zero and Livewire redefine American motorcycling for the electric future, Buell remains trapped in an endless cycle of failed comebacks and unfulfilled potential. Number 11. Victory motorcycles. Victory motorcycles represents the strange phenomenon of a discontinued brand that refuses to fade gracefully into history. When parent company Polaris abruptly shut down Victory in 2017 to focus on Indian motorcycles, it created a bizarre situation where Victory bikes became instantly obsolete, despite being technically sound machines. The aftermath for Victory owners has been nothing short of catastrophic. Resale values plummeted immediately upon the discontinuation announcement, but the true pain has emerged in the years since. Owners report that bikes that originally sold for $20,000 plus now struggle to fetch even $5,000 on the used market, a depreciation rate that makes luxury cars look like solid investments by comparison. The exodus of Victory loyalists has been swift and decisive. Motorcycle owners' forums that once buzzed with Victory enthusiasts have become digital ghost towns. Owners' groups that boasted thousands of members have dwindled to a few hundred diehards, most of whom are simply trying to extract maximum value from machines they know they will eventually have to abandon. The parts situation has developed exactly as industry experts predicted, from bad to worse. While Polaris committed to maintaining parts support for 10 years after discontinuation, riders report increasing difficulty obtaining critical components. Dealerships that once proudly displayed Victory's distinct models now refuse to service them at all, citing training issues and parts availability. The maintenance nightmare has forced many owners to sell at catastrophic losses simply to avoid being stranded with an unrepairable motorcycle. Victory's cautionary tale extends beyond its current owners to the entire motorcycle industry. The brand demonstrates how quickly a manufacturer can go from innovative market disruptor to historical footnote. It is a stark reminder that brand equity in motorcycling is far more fragile than most companies want to admit. Number 10. Moto Guzzi touring models. Moto Guzzi's touring motorcycles exemplify what happens when heritage becomes a burden rather than an asset. The iconic Italian manufacturer, famous for its longitudinally mounted V-twin engines, has watched its touring models slide into irrelevance despite a century of brand history. The sales collapse of Moto Guzzi's touring lineup can be directly traced to their stubborn refusal to evolve beyond the basics. Models like the California 1400 Touring and MGX 21 remain essentially the same motorcycles they were a decade ago, with minimal updates to engines, electronics, or comfort features. This approach might work for heritage brands in stable segments, but in the hyper-competitive touring market, it has been a recipe for disaster. Despite maintaining a small but passionate fan base, Moto Guzzi's actual sales numbers reveal the harsh truth. Industry data shows that Moto Guzzi's touring models now sell in numbers so small they barely register in market share calculations. For context, Harley-Davidson sells more touring bikes in a single weekend than Moto Guzzi manages in an entire year across North America. The fundamental problem is that Moto Guzzi's touring models exist in a brutal no-man's land of motorcycle marketing. They are too heavy and expensive for casual riders looking for Italian style, yet lack the technology and comfort features serious tourers expect. When competitors offer radar-assisted cruise control, integrated navigation, and electronically adjustable everything, Moto Guzzi's analog approach feels hopelessly outdated rather than charmingly retro. The brand's distributor network further compounds these issues. With sparse dealership coverage and notoriously slow parts availability, potential buyers face the very real prospect of their bike being sidelined for weeks should any maintenance issues arise. For touring riders who plan 1,000-mile trips, this level of uncertainty is simply unacceptable. Triumph's Scrambler line represents perhaps the most dramatic example of how quickly a motorcycle segment can go from trend-setting to trend-following. When Triumph revived the Scrambler concept in the mid-2000s, it created an entire category of motorcycles that dominated sales and social media for years. Today, that same lineup sits largely ignored on dealer floors. The collapse of Triumph's Scrambler sales coincides with the rise of more authentic, capable, and affordable alternatives. Royal Enfield's Scram 411 offers genuine off-road capability at half the price, while Ducati's Scrambler lineup delivers superior performance and Italian cachet. Caught between these alternatives, Triumph's offerings suddenly appear overpriced and underwhelming. Dealer reports paint a troubling picture. Triumph scramblers that once sold before they even hit the showroom floor now linger for months, requiring increasingly desperate incentives to move. Industry sources confirm that dealer margins on these models have been slashed to near zero as the company attempts to clear inventory without officially admitting the sales crisis. The style over substance approach that initially made these bikes attractive has become their greatest liability. While they look the part of rugged adventurers, most Triumph scramblers offer limited actual off-road capability, a contradiction that increasingly sophisticated buyers immediately recognize. When you charge premium prices for what amounts to a styling exercise, customers eventually catch on. Perhaps most damaging has been Triumph's confused market positioning. By expanding the Scrambler line to include everything from entry-level models to premium variants, they have diluted the exclusivity that once made these bikes desirable. Now the lineup appears disjointed and unfocused, neither accessible enough for new riders nor capable enough for experienced enthusiasts. BMW's premium motorcycle lineup exemplifies what happens when a manufacturer completely loses touch with economic reality. Long respected for engineering excellence and innovation, BMW's top-tier models are experiencing an unprecedented sales collapse as pricing strategies collide with market realities. The numbers tell a devastating story. BMW's flagship touring and adventure models have seen sales declines of over 30% in the past 2 years alone, with the decline accelerating each quarter. Dealer inventories that once operated on allocation due to high demand now sit overstocked, with some showrooms reporting 6+ months of supply of certain premium models, an eternity in the seasonal motorcycle business. The culprit behind this collapse is transparent, pricing that has completely detached from value. BMW's flagship R1250 GS Adventure now starts at over $23,000 before adding any options, while fully equipped versions easily exceed $30,000. At these price points, the motorcycles have crossed a psychological barrier where even affluent riders question the value proposition. When a Honda Africa Twin offers 90% of the capability at 65% of the price, BMW's premium becomes increasingly difficult to justify. The situation grows even more dire when examining ownership costs beyond the initial purchase. BMW's parts pricing has become notorious within the industry, with simple maintenance items like filters and brake pads commanding 200 to 300% premiums over comparable components for Japanese motorcycles. The dealer service requirement for maintaining warranty coverage further compounds the financial burden, creating a total cost of ownership that has driven away even loyal BMW enthusiasts. Most troubling for BMW's future prospects is that once reliable upper-income buyers are the very demographic leading the exodus. These consumers, typically less price-sensitive in the past, have become increasingly value-conscious in the current economic climate. The status value of the BMW roundel no longer overrides practical financial considerations when alternatives from brands like Yamaha and Honda offer comparable experiences at significantly lower buy-in and ownership costs. Number 7. Kawasaki Touring Bikes. Kawasaki's touring motorcycle lineup represents one of the most dramatic collapses in brand positioning the industry has witnessed. Once a respected player in the segment with models like the Concours 14, Kawasaki has seen its touring market share evaporate to nearly nothing in recent years. The sales decline tells the brutal truth. Industry data shows that Kawasaki's Concours 14, once the brand's flagship sport tourer, now sells fewer than 500 units annually in the entire North American market. For comparison, Honda's Goldwing sells that many units in an average month, while Harley-Davidson's Road Glide variants can exceed those numbers in a single weekend during peak season. Kawasaki's failure in the touring segment stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what modern touring riders actually want. While competitors have embraced technology with features like adaptive cruise control, sophisticated infotainment systems, and comprehensive rider aids, Kawasaki's offerings remain stuck in the previous decade. The Concours 14, despite minor updates, is essentially the same motorcycle it was when introduced in 2007, an eternity in product development terms. This technology gap becomes painfully evident when examining competitive set pricing. Kawasaki's touring models are priced similarly to more feature-rich alternatives from BMW and Honda, creating a value proposition that falls apart under scrutiny. When consumers can get more technology, comfort, and dealer support for similar money, the choice becomes obvious. Perhaps most damaging has been Kawasaki's nearly invisible marketing presence in the touring category. While Harley-Davidson and Honda invest heavily in promoting their touring credentials through dedicated events and rider communities, Kawasaki has allowed its touring identity to fade into obscurity. The result is that many new touring riders don't even consider Kawasaki an option when shopping. The brand has literally disappeared from consideration. Suzuki's street bike lineup represents one of the most profound collapses of brand equity in modern motorcycling. Once the undisputed king of sport bikes with its legendary GSX-R series, Suzuki has watched its position erode to the point of irrelevance in a category it once dominated. The sales figures reveal a company in free fall. Suzuki's sport bike registrations have declined by over 60% in North America since their peak, with no signs of stabilization. Dealer reports indicate that even current generation GSX-R models sit unsold for months, requiring increasingly desperate incentives to move. In some regions, Suzuki sport bike inventories exceed 200 days' supply, more than double what is considered healthy in the industry. The root cause of Suzuki's collapse is painfully obvious: product stagnation on an unprecedented scale. The GSX R1000, once the gold standard of liter-class sport bikes, has received only minor updates since its 2017 redesign, while competitors have gone through complete generational changes. The GSX R750 and GSX R600 models are even more outdated, with core designs dating back to 2011. That is prehistoric in a technology-driven segment. This lack of investment has created a catastrophic technology gap. While competitors offer sophisticated electronics packages with cornering ABS, multiple riding modes, and comprehensive telemetry, Suzuki's offerings remain comparatively primitive. For buyers spending premium dollars in this segment, these technological shortcomings render Suzuki effectively invisible in the marketplace, regardless of price point. Perhaps most telling is Suzuki's complete absence from professional racing success in recent years. A brand that once dominated Superbike and MotoGP competitions now struggles to make any impact, further eroding the performance credibility that once defined the brand. Without racing pedigree to justify their existence, Suzuki's sport bikes have lost their reason for being in many enthusiasts' eyes. Indian Motorcycles exemplifies the dangers of building an entire business model on nostalgia rather than innovation. Despite Polaris Industries' substantial investment in reviving this historic American brand, Indian's sales growth has not only stalled but begun a troubling reversal that threatens its long-term viability. The numbers reveal a brand in serious trouble. After initial success following the 2014 relaunch, Indian sales have declined for 3 consecutive years, with current volumes approximately 40% below their peak. More concerning is the inventory situation. Dealer floor plans show average Indian motorcycles sitting unsold for 120+ days, more than double the industry average, and a critical indicator of waning consumer interest. The fundamental problem lies in Indian's complete failure to connect with younger riders. By focusing almost exclusively on heritage models that appeal to older demographics, Indian has created a customer base that is literally aging out of motorcycling altogether. Industry demographics reveal that the average Indian buyer is now over 55 years old, a full decade older than the broader motorcycle market, and a recipe for terminal decline. Price positioning has further accelerated Indian's troubles. With entry-level models starting above $15,000 and flagship touring bikes exceeding $30,000, Indian has priced itself out of consideration for the vast majority of potential customers. These premium prices might be justifiable if the bikes offered technological advantages, but Indian's offerings typically lag behind competitors in electronics, rider aids, and connectivity features. Perhaps most damning is Indian's failure to translate its heritage appeal into a meaningful lifestyle brand that resonates beyond boomers. While younger riders show increasing interest in vintage-inspired motorcycles from brands like Royal Enfield, they view Indian as their grandfather's motorcycle, respected for its history but utterly irrelevant to their riding aspirations and lifestyle. Harley-Davidson's decline represents the most significant brand collapse in motorcycle history, not because it's the fastest or most complete, but because of the iconic American company's historical dominance and cultural significance. The numbers tell a story that Harley executives have desperately tried to obscure. sales data reveals the harsh reality. Harley-Davidson's United States motorcycle deliveries have declined for 16 consecutive quarters, and current volumes now sit at less than half of the peak reached in 2006. This decline has occurred despite aggressive dealer incentives, factory rebates, and manufacturer-subsidized financing, desperate measures that have failed to reverse the slide. The demographic crisis driving this decline is no secret within the industry. Harley's core customer base, predominantly white men over 50, is aging out of motorcycling altogether. The average age of a Harley owner has now surpassed 59 years old, creating an existential threat to a business model that has failed to connect with younger, more diverse riders who represent the future of motorcycling. Harley's price positioning has become completely detached from market realities. Entry-level models now start above $15,000, while popular touring variants easily exceed $30,000, price points that make the brand inaccessible to the younger riders it desperately needs to attract. When Japanese and European alternatives offer superior performance, technology, and reliability at lower price points, Harley's premium becomes increasingly difficult to justify. The brand's attempt to pivot with new models like the Livewire electric motorcycle and Pan America adventure bike has generated media attention but minimal sales impact. These models, while technically competitive, arrive too late and at price points too high to meaningfully change the brand's trajectory. They represent a company belatedly recognizing its core problem while lacking the courage to address its fundamental pricing and positioning issues. Number 3. Yamaha Supersport models. Yamaha's Supersport lineup illustrates how even a technically excellent product can become completely irrelevant when market tastes fundamentally shift. Once the cornerstone of Yamaha's street lineup, models like the YZF-R6 and YZF-R1 are experiencing a sales implosion of historic proportions. The sales collapse is undeniable. Registration data shows that Yamaha's Supersport models have seen volume declines exceeding 75% from their peak, with no signs of stabilization. The R6 has been reduced to a track-only model in most markets due to collapsing street demand, while even the flagship R1 now sells in volumes that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. This decline is not about product quality. Yamaha's Supersport offerings remain technically excellent and competitive within their category. Rather, it represents a fundamental shift in what motorcyclists value. The extreme performance capabilities that once defined desirability now appear irrelevant as riders prioritize versatility, comfort, and real-world usability over track-focused performance that cannot be legally or safely accessed on public roads. Economic factors have accelerated this segment's decline. Insurance costs for Supersport models have reached punitive levels, with annual premiums often exceeding $2,000 for riders under 35, the very demographic these bikes need to attract. Combined with declining disposable income among younger riders, these ownership costs have rendered the category financially inaccessible to its traditional customer base. Perhaps most revealing is what is replacing Supersport bikes in riders' garages. The same customers who once coveted an R1 or R6 are now purchasing naked bikes, adventure tourers, or retro-styled standards, motorcycles that sacrifice outright performance for versatility and everyday usability. It is not that riders have stopped buying motorcycles. They have simply stopped buying motorcycles optimized for a type of riding that increasingly few people actually do. Honda's adventure motorcycle lineup demonstrates how quickly a brand can lose its position even in a growing segment. Despite the adventure category experiencing overall growth, Honda's offerings have suffered catastrophic market share losses as competitors deliver more compelling value propositions. The sales trajectory tells the story. Honda's flagship Africa Twin has seen registrations decline by over 40% since its redesign, despite the segment growing by nearly 20% during the same period. Dealer inventories reflect this customer rejection, with floor models sitting unsold for an average of 145 days, nearly triple the segment average, and a clear indicator of waning consumer interest. Honda's pricing strategy bears significant responsibility for this collapse. The base Africa Twin now starts above $14,000, while the Adventure Sports variant easily exceeds $20,000 with options. These price points position Honda directly against more feature-rich European alternatives, while offering fewer advanced technologies, creating a value proposition that increasingly savvy adventure riders quickly reject. The brand's adventure lineup suffers from a fundamental identity crisis. Models like the Africa Twin attempt to balance off-road capability with on-road comfort, ultimately excelling at neither. This jack-of-all-trades approach might have worked in a less competitive market, but today's adventure riders have access to specialized options that better match their specific riding priorities, whether that is serious off-road performance or long-distance touring comfort. Honda's typically sterling reliability reputation has also taken hits with its adventure lineup. Early Africa Twin models suffered from well-documented transmission issues and electronic gremlins, creating perception problems that continue to haunt the model despite subsequent improvements. In a segment where riders plan remote backcountry expeditions, these reliability concerns have proven particularly damaging. Number 1. Ducati Streetfighter line. Ducati's Streetfighter lineup represents the most catastrophic failure of motorcycle market positioning in recent memory. Despite critical acclaim and impressive performance on paper, the Streetfighter series has become the poster child for products that excel on paper but fail in the marketplace. The sales collapse is unprecedented, even by the standards of this list. Industry data shows Streetfighter registrations have declined by over 80% from initial launch volumes, with the V4 variant selling in numbers so small, some analysts question whether it meets the minimum threshold for continued production. Dealer inventory reports reveal Streetfighters sitting unsold for 180-plus days, more than double what is considered acceptable in the premium segment. The core problem is not the motorcycle's performance or build quality, both of which receive consistent praise from the motorcycling press. Rather, the Streetfighter perfectly embodies everything today's motorcycle buyers increasingly reject. Extreme performance that is unusable on public roads, punishing ergonomics that limit riding time, and stratospheric ownership costs that make the total ownership experience financially irrational. Maintenance costs have proven particularly damaging to the model's market position. Valve adjustment services routinely exceed $1,500, and major services approach $3,000. The total ownership expenses over a typical 3-year period often exceed 30% of the motorcycle's purchase price. These costs might be acceptable for occasional use weekend toys, but they have made the Streetfighter financially inaccessible as a primary motorcycle for all but the wealthiest riders. The Streetfighter's decline represents the perfect storm of industry misjudgment. It is a product that prioritizes performance metrics and design statement over the practical realities of ownership, priced at a premium that assumes brand cachet will overcome value considerations, and targeting a segment that is systematically rejecting the very attributes the motorcycle emphasizes. It stands as the ultimate example of a manufacturer losing touch with what customers actually want. The landscape is shifting. The motorcycle industry stands at a pivotal crossroads. These 13 brands did not just lose customers, they lost relevance in a rapidly evolving marketplace. The old formula of heritage, horsepower, and high prices has been decisively rejected by today's riders, who demand genuine value, practical capability, and ownership experiences that make financial sense. Look carefully at your own garage. Are you holding on to a depreciating asset from one of these brands? The data does not lie. The market has spoken. These 13 failures represent the beginning of a fundamental industry restructuring. What brand shocked you the most? Which will be next to fall? Subscribe now. Our next investigation exposes the financial realities these companies desperately want to hide from you.